Okay, I don't know if you noticed, people also attach different identities to a person's weight, even from ancient times. And not all identities are equal. We saw that in the case of Susie Guillory Phipps. She wanted to change her racial classification because people attach high and low statuses to different identities. And these identities can be racial ethnic identities, age-based identities, gender-based identities, and other kinds of identities. And I believe that these high or low statuses occurs not as endpoints, but in a continuum. Am I making sense? And because of that, people care about the identities attached to them voluntarily and involuntarily. And many, many centuries ago, plumpness was a desirable identity for ladies and for men due to different reasons. In ancient China, plumpness was a desirable identity for ladies and men. The same in the Western culture. And for men, being heavy was considered desirable due to a different reason. For men, decades ago or even centuries ago, being heavy was considered financially well off. Owning a lot of land, having a big bank account, having lots of properties and assets. And because of that, men who were heavy, they formed groups and organizations and clubs to solidify these common identities, being heavier. Because positive connotations were being attached to being heavy, they were considered or assumed to be rich and powerful. They socialized together, eating together, doing activities together. Yeah, this was the club formed by heavier men in the early 20th century in your country. And this was partly due to industrialization or industrial revolution that increased the quantity or even maybe also the quality of food. And because of that, people had access to more food, especially wealthier folks. And because of that, positive connotations were being attached to being heavier for men and women. They were considered coming from a wealthier family or from a powerful family. And we see that this may still be the case in some countries with authoritarian regimes. Just picture North Korea. How the elites and the general population look. Go figure. This mindset was still prevalent in some authoritarian regimes. Even in China, when communists first took over and government confiscated almost all properties from almost all families. And the elites or the high government officials in the Communist Party, they look very different from the general public. So a high status was attached to weight-related identities, in this case, being heavier. In China, still in North Korea, in your country about 100 years ago or 120 some years ago. And things eventually changed through industrialization, through mechanization of agriculture. Food could be mass produced, so even the poor folks could have access to food at a reasonable or lower cost. And maybe the government was wealthier after the mechanization of agriculture, after industrialization. And because of that, they could subsidize food purchases for people. So point is, with industrialization, food become more accessible. Even poor folks, low-income folks can have access to food. Whether good or bad quality food, it doesn't matter. And because of that, food ceased to be a status symbol, and weight ceased to be a status symbol for a certain group of people. And because of that, they got to find other ways to maintain their distinctive, perceived unique statuses. They start to engage in conscious consumption. They buy certain luxury goods, certain high-end products to continue to imply that they are from certain statuses, certain social classes. Because maybe after industrialization and mechanization of agriculture, weight ceased to be a status symbol. So people got to find other ways to tell people from another group that they are somewhat quote unquote privileged. And maybe we know that medical advancement or people could improve in food production. Maybe they could or can still produce higher quality food. Maybe gluten-free and organic food came about gradually. And because of that, being heavy is considered a stigma. Low statuses is now being attached to heavier person. So people's perceptions of weight-related identities can change. And being heavier continue to be stigmatized to this day. And is portrayed in the scenes of movies, not only in English movies, in movies in other languages and cultures. Heavier folks continue to be portrayed in a negative light. And sometimes being heavier has formed certain controlling images in the minds or in the subconscious minds or unconscious minds of many people. And the concept of controlling images was being formed, was being created by Dr. Patricia Hill Collins. And sometimes this concept is portrayed among heavier people. People assume that they are less effective, they are lazy, sluggish, among other negative connotations, when they don't realize that sometimes people can gain weight due to health reasons beyond their control. And according to Dr. Collins, there are also controlling images attached to Black women. Certain negative stereotypes attached to Black women. And because of these controlling images attached to different groups of people based on certain characteristics, people become prejudiced. Prejudice comes from the word prejudge. We prejudge another group of people due to our lack of knowledge about that group of people. We don't try to understand that group of people who are different from us in the first place. And we just go ahead and judge them. And because of that, our judgments are almost 100% incorrect and inaccurate. This is what we mean by prejudice. Employers refuse to hire people of a certain weight group, either underweight or overweight, because they are prejudiced. Okay, so this paragraph just tells us that there are different statuses attached to weight-related identities. Some weight group or weight range are more esteemed than others. And we know that weight-related identities, people's perceptions of weight-related identities can change over time and context. Heavier folks tends to be perceived in a more favorable light hundreds of years ago, or even in the earlier parts of the 20th century. And this page talks about explicit and implicit attitudes. Explicit attitudes are the belief that we choose to have, or we know that we have those attitudes. It exists in our conscious mind. Implicit attitudes are belief that we absorb involuntarily in our unconscious and subconscious mind. And we are unaware that we have those attitudes about certain groups of people. Let's say if a student say that I don't want to sit with somebody who is overweight or underweight, this is a manifestation of explicit attitude. Or sometimes no one person makes decision about who to hire or any prospective employees that they should shortlist or they should reject right away. Usually it's a group decision. Usually there is a hiring committee. And explicit attitude would be, I don't want to hire somebody who is underweight because this job requires heavy lifting. Or I don't want to hire somebody who is overweight because they may not be efficient. And the whole group decided on that. That would be explicit attitude. Implicit attitudes would be maybe somebody who is not within the normal weight range or the normal BMI group comes to interview at an organization, and the other employees who met with that person gave the person some negative gesture. This would be implicit attitudes. Okay, I'm done with this section.